Hey guys, what's up? How are you? In this video, we're gonna do something that is pretty important for all of you Flutter developers out there. What we are gonna do is, let's see, we are gonna make an app that looks somewhat like, no, not even close. This is just the bare bone structure of the app we are gonna make. So it will consist of a email box, a password box, and a submit button. It's a login page UI, and it will have an app bar which says login. So why is it so important? Because 99% of the apps you make is gonna have a login page in some way or the other. So let's see what else we are gonna do today. We are gonna add these two red texts which are errors which you get when the email or the password you enter is not valid. So who decides when an email is valid or when a password is valid or if they are not? So it's gonna be us. We are gonna give some conditions, like for an email to be valid, the condition is gonna be that there should be a @ symbol in the email. For a password to be valid, the condition is gonna be that the password should be at least 8 characters long. Yeah, so that's all. And what we wanna do today is whenever an email or a password is entered, and when a user presses the submit button, the email and password should be validated. Yeah, that's all we want today. So let's jump to the coding part. So open the directory in which you want to create your Flutter project and run a simple command, Flutter create. I'm gonna name my app as login page and press enter. It's simple. So it's gonna install some dependencies and it's creating your app. Let's wait for it. In the meantime, I can start my emulator. So here's my emulator. Let me resize the VS Code window. Yep, perfect. Yep, so our project files have been created, and let me shift it to a little right. Yep. Now let's go into the app project files. Let's go into the lib directory, I'm sorry, and the main.dat file. Yeah, here's an enormous amount of code and we're gonna just select it and delete it all. So now in order to make our app, first thing we're gonna do is type in an import statement. It's pretty simple. And what we are going to import is something called as material.dart library from Flutter package. Yeah, perfect. Now the next thing we want to do is make a void main method, which in turn invokes a run app method. So run app method takes in a widget as parameter, and now let's define that widget. So let's define the app method. It extends stateless widget. Perfect. So now you would be like, why are we making it a stateless widget? Why not stateful? Because we won't be able to alter the state in the stateless widget. I'll explain you why I have made a stateless widget in a moment. So let me first write the code. So what we're gonna have over here is a build method, so which returns a widget. So and it takes in parameter of build context, and you still need not to worry about what's build context. Just think of it as a part of syntax. That's it. I'll explain it to you in like a few upcoming videos. So this should return a widget. For that, let's return a material app. This one. Perfect. So let's give a title to our app and let the title be login page. And now let's give a home. So what I'm gonna do over here is leave home empty for a while and define another class over here, a class login screen, which extends stateful widget. Perfect. Now what we are going to do, we are going to pass this stateful widget we have made to the home. in the stateless widget app. So like that. And you already know that whenever we create a stateful widget, we need to create two classes. So for that, let's create two classes, and another class is gonna be login screen state, and this one is gonna be a state class, and it extends state class, and let's restrict it to login screen. Perfect. Now what we need to do over here is to make a create state method. So let's make a create state method which returns a login screen state. Login screen state. Yep, perfect. And there's one more way to write the exactly same thing if you have only one statement in a function, so and that is a return statement. Then what you can do is you can just put a arrow symbol like that and write whatever you want to return. So over here, as you want to return a login screen states widget, so let's return it like that. Let me just a second. Yep. So let's now write the state class. What we are going to do over here is create a build method first of all. So widget build, and it's going to take in some build context. And now what we are going to do is return a scaffold. So what's happening over here, sorry, so what's happening over here, the state of this scaffold will be passed over here where we have written a login screen. And as we do not have to make any change in this much part of the code, so this can be stateless, but we are definitely going to make a lot of changes, and we are going to rebuild states a lot of times. So that is why this part needs to be stateful. Yeah, so now let's go ahead and define our scaffold widget. So let's first define an app bar, and app bar property can take input of something called as app bar widget, and app bar widget can have a title, and this title can be fed a text widget, and let's have the text login in caps. Perfect. Now let's define the rest of the body, and let's make this body a container like that. And now let's see what we need to do. What we need to do is to have three different things in a column, we can say. Yeah, so this is a column, right? They have been aligned in one after another order vertically. So what we need to do is to make a column. So container has a child property which can be fed a column. Yep, like that. And now this column has a property of children, and this can be fed three different widgets. So here they are going to be two text fields and a button. So before we define a text field, we need to do something. We need to wrap this container into a form like that. Perfect. And now we can use text form field, same, and a raised button. For now, the onPress property of the raised button has been assigned as null. So now let's build our widget at this moment, and let's see what's going on. So to build our widget, I'm gonna do a Flutter run. Yep, so here's my emulator. So yeah, our app has been installed, and it's not the way we wanted it to be. We have got two text form fields over here, but what we want from them is to be like that. We want them to be in the middle of the column, and there should be some gap in the side margins and the text boxes, and also we want them to be vertically center aligned. So let's see what we can do. The first thing we are going to do is to define the width of the container. Let's define the width. So there are two ways to define the width. One of them is directly we can assign some value like that, and when we hot reload, you can see, okay, it's very short. Let's enter some big number like 200. So yeah, we have got the container of some particular width, but this won't be very responsive when we run the app in different devices. So what we can do instead of this is we can use a class called as MediaQuery. So what MediaQuery does is, I'll explain it to you in a moment. Just look at the code I'm writing right now. Yeah, so what MediaQuery does is MediaQuery provides you with the various information about the device on which you are running your app. So what we are demanding over here is MediaQuery.of context. This size thing and dot width gives us the width of our device. So now when we save this and when we reload it, we get a full length text box field. So what we need to do is multiply it by 0.7 in order to use the 70% of the screen. Yep, like that. Now what should we do? Now what we can do is we can wrap this container in a center, and now when we hot reload, we've got it aligned in exact center of the screen. Now we need to vertically align it. In order to vertically align it, what we can do is use the main axis property of the column. So main axis alignment, I'm going to set it as main axis alignment dot center. So this will bring it in the exact mid of the screen. Yeah, that's what we wanted from it, and let's see how is it working. Yeah, perfect. But you'll realize that this submit button is not enabled right now. Why is that? Because the onPressed property over here has been assigned to null. So in order to make it, in order to enable it, what we can do is make a function in front of onPressed like that. Yep. So when we now reload, we have got it enabled, and now you can see that it can be pressed. Now what we need to do is give the label text and the hint text and the text on the submit button. So first let's deal with the submit button. So let's see what it has got a child property. We are going to use it and pass in a text, and as text we are going to pass submit. Now let's reload it and see what's going on. Yeah, perfect, the way we wanted it to be. And now let's define the text form field. What we can do with the text form field is, let's see what are the various properties it has got. It has got something called decorations, and this decoration property takes input of something called as input decoration. Yeah, this one. And this input decoration has got a property called as hint text, this one, and this is for the password. So we don't need a hint text for a password, so let's remove it and add a label text. Yep, and let's make the label text to be password like that. Now when we reload it, you will get a label over here, and when you tap over it, it will work like that. Now let's add a label text to the email field, decoration, input decoration, and label text, and let's make the label text as email. Perfect. And this email box also requires something called as hint text. So let's see what hint text does. This one, and let's make the hint text as abc at .com, like that. Now let's reload it. Yeah, perfect. When the email box is not selected, at that moment the label text is being displayed, and when we click on the email box, it will display the hint text. And now let's see what else we want to do. What we want to do is add some padding over here, because the distance between the password and the submit button is quite less, is very less. So let's add a padding option in the raised button, margin. So we cannot add a margin in the raised button. So what can we do is we can wrap this raised button in a container, and the container can have a margin property. So let's give the margin as edge insets dot only, and this is how we give margin. And we want to give for top, so top as, let's say, 8 pixels. Now when we reload it, you'll see it got a bit farther. So let's give a 14. Yeah, it's perfect. So now let's see what else we want to do in this app is, now let's go for the validation part, that whenever a user enters something and press the submit button, the text entered by the user should be validated. So let's see how can we do that. So for that, what we have got is, in this text form field, we have got a property called as validator. So it returns a string, and you can go it like that. And let's give a value. This value is the value which will be passed over here in the text box. So what we can write over here is, if value dot contains, let's give a @ symbol, and its negation is true, then what we want to do is we want to return enter a valid email. Perfect, it looks good. And else we want to return nothing, just like that. So we can do the same for the password over here. And let's add a validator, and the validator will take a value. And now let's make a condition, if value dot length is less than or equal to, no, let's make it less than 8, return enter a valid password and a semicolon. Now let's write a else if statement, else return null. Yeah, that's all. So the thing is, as we have added the validator, it won't take action by itself. We need to do something. I'll show you what. We need to define a key. Now you'd be like, what's a key? So we won't be covering the keys in this video, but in the next 2 or 3 videos I'll be covering keys, so I'll explain it to you over there. For now, think of key as it's something that helps the app to validate the form. So there are various kind of keys, so we are going to use a global key of type form state, and let's name the key as form key, like that, is equals to global key like that. Yeah, perfect. That's all you want to do. And let's pass this key into the form we made. The form is over here. It has a property called key, and let's pass this key, form key. So this part is done, and now we want whenever this button is pressed, that key should validate these two text boxes. So how do we do that? All we have to write is form key dot current state dot validate. Yep, that's it. And now let's check our app if it's running. Let's restart it first. Yep, it has been restarted. And now let's input something as Keshav, and password is also Keshav. Now it will show you an error, and if I add a at yahoo.com and I make its length as 8 Keshav baby, it won't show an error. And one more thing we want to do, we can't display the password in normal text. We want the stars or dots instead of this text. So what can we do? Let's go to this form, and it has got something called as obscure text. Let's make it true. Yeah, that's all. And now when you will reload it, yep, now whatever you enter will be in this form. There's one more thing I want to tell you. You can see this keyboard, it's not very apt for email, and this is not very apt for password if it's just number. So what we can do over here, we can select a type of keyboard in this text form field. So it has a property called keyboard type. What we can do is assign it a text input type dot email. Yeah, and let's assign the other one none. This is for the password. So we want to assign this property to this text form field, and for this thing let's have numbers. That means that we are going to have our password in just numbers. So keyboard type text input type dot numbers with options. Let's see what it does. Let's restart it. Yeah, it got restarted. Now let's click on it. Yeah, you can see there's a at button over here, and let's see what's with the password. Yep, you have got only numbers. So yeah, that's all about the video. And in order to refer something, what you can do is you can go to the Flutter official documentations, and you can check out various other properties it has got. So all you need to do is type directly Flutter docs, and the very first link will be the documentations. This one. Yep, this is how the documentation looks. And in order to search anything, what you can do is, like, let's search about a text form field. Here is the search option, text form. I hope it shows result because internet at my place is dying. So this is how it will look when you search for text form field, and I opened it with my mobile phone as my internet is not working very well. So when you see over here, you have got various properties that can be assigned to a text form field. So you might want to go out and check them out. What all are these, and what's the purpose for them? Like whichever we have used is an input decoration, this one, and I'm sorry, and quite a few from these we have used, and rest I guess you might want to go and check them out. So yeah, that's all from this video. See you people in the next video.